Hi everybody, my name is Wendy Weum. I am a territory business manager for Baxter. I've been here for about 3 amazing years, and I handle the CRT programs up in the New England area. So I'm here today. I get the privilege to tell you guys a really cool story. And as I tell you this story, I want you guys to start to think about something. And that something's called your why. Why do you do the things you do? Why do you get up every day? Why do you go to work? Why did you pick the position you had? Why do you have the family life you have? These are all your whys. What is awesome about a why? It's yours. Nobody can judge you for it. Nobody can take it away from you. It's what drives you to do everything that you do. And some people, honestly, can find their whys super easy, right? They literally will tell you in 2 seconds what drives them. Others have to do some peeling of the onion layers to figure out exactly what it is that makes them do the things they do. Sometimes we have to pivot with our whys. And in this story, while I want you to consider what you think your why may be, I also want you to start to think about this girl's story. So we're going back to the mid-90s. I know for some of you guys back then, this is still when the hair was a little high, rock and roll was still really cool. It's a girl, she's a senior in college. She's ambitious, it's her last semester. She has her own home. She is working 2 jobs and she's going to school full time. And her why at the time, right? If we think about it, what's a young girl, early 20s? What's her why? Her why at that time probably was, I need to get up, I need to finish school because I have all these hopes and dreams and they're all gonna happen when I'm done, right? The house, back then probably the white picket fence, whatever was going through her mind that drove her every day to do the things she did. She had noticed for the last couple months she hadn't been feeling well. And so she'd gone to a couple doctors, then ran some blood work, told her, you take on so much. You're just probably tired. She said, no, I really think I'm not feeling well. So after a while, she started to think wow, maybe it's in her head, right? Maybe she's fine. And finally, she went to her primary care physician. And this was an old family doctor who had known her family since she had been little. Was still paying house visits. Yes, house visits. I did say that. Imagine that. House visits to her grandmother. How cool is that, right? And she tells him she hasn't been feeling well. And he knows her pretty well. And he says, you know what? I'm going to get you in just for a CAT scan. Let's take a peek. So 2 days later, she goes and she has her CAT scan. And while she's there, the girl doing it leaves the room. She brings in a couple other people and then asks this poor young girl to sign a piece of paper for another test, which she does. And now the girl's already starting to think, why are they doing another test? Something's probably, maybe she was right. Maybe something wasn't good. As she leaves, she's not even 2 minutes out of the parking lot and her mother calls her and says, hey, listen, the doctor's office just called. They saw some things they didn't like on the scan, but they're not overly concerned. Definitely looks like you have a growth and we're gonna have to go get a biopsy, but don't worry about it. They assured me you're young. We have no cancer in our family. This grew really fast. It's gonna be fine. So the girl said, okay, all right, maybe that's why I'm tired, right? Got something in me. Something's probably pushing somewhere. Maybe that's why she's tired. So she goes, she has her biopsy, her mom takes her, she goes back home, she goes back to her house, she's going back to school. About 3 days in, her mother calls her again. Says, hey, listen, what time are you out of class today? And so she tells her, and now we're only about 3, maybe 4 weeks into her last semester. And she says, I need you to come by the house. Something happened with your biopsy, so they have to do another one. And she goes, oh, that's weird. I thought they got a decent tissue sample, but okay. Girl didn't think anything of it because her mom never lied, right? Her mom, dad, they just never lied. And as she rounds the corner at her mom's house and she pulls in, her dad's truck's there. And her dad never missed work, right? Never, never. The Earth could be on a collision course with an asteroid and he was still going to work. She knew right then and there she was in trouble, right? Why is her dad home from work? And she walked in and her parents were crying. And they looked at her and they said, "You have cancer." And I think the girl probably at that point, her why probably changed, right? Like, wait a minute, my why yesterday was just to finish school and go on and do all these great things. And now all of a sudden, everything's changing. The girl didn't cry. I think probably because she saw her parents upset, right? And what kid wants to see the parents upset? She said, "Don't worry about it. I'm tough. It's gonna be fine." The next day, they had already had an appointment. So they head up to this well-known institution, which was really known for cancer as well. Really good hospital. And they get there and they meet with the head of oncology. And the oncologist looks at them very straight-faced. And mind you, he was a little bit older, did not have a good bedside manner at all, and really didn't miss a beat. He just said, listen, she's got an adenocarcinoma with serous papillary features. She has a stage 3B. There's only like 8 cases of this recorded in the world right now, and the outcomes are not good. I think right now we make her comfortable. Now, mind you, the girl, her mother and father are sitting there. And the girl's quiet. She doesn't even know what to say. And the mother, without hesitation, who, mind you, is a tiny little peanut, gets up and picks up the stapler off the table and throws it. And this woman throws it with force, guys, that I don't even know where this little pint-sized female got this from, but the stapler stuck in the wall. It missed the doctor's head, but stuck in the wall. And she calmly looked and she said, "This is my daughter. She's ambitious, she is young, she is bright, and she's good. She's done so much good in her life. We're not ready to give up. There's got to be something we can do, whether it's experimental, we'll do whatever we have to do, we'll sell the house, we'll do what we need to do." And meanwhile, the girl is still sitting there quietly, in shock, right? Again, her why is pivoting in 12 different directions. And so the doctor pauses. I think he was probably scared of the little pint-sized female. And he says, "You know what? We're meeting with the International Tumor Board. I will give them her case, but I'm not going to make any promises." A couple days later, they bring her in to start chemotherapy. And again, this is early 90s, so things weren't as well known about chemo drugs and reactions. And her first chemo round, they said to her, "Listen, we're doing adriamycin, baramycin, cisplatin. And unfortunately, we don't know how your body's going to react to this. You may not survive this chemo concoction." And the girl said, "Okay, then let's do this. I need my parents to go home. I don't want them here for this. You need to tell them that we're postponing it because they need to go home." So that night, that young girl started her chemotherapy by herself. And it was not a good ride. Took vomiting to a whole new level. And this began her journey of chemotherapy. They put her on a very strict regimen. She would vomit for about 18 to 19 days straight, and then every 21 days start a new round of chemotherapy. She fractured ribs. She was on every anti-nausea drug known to man. Her father, whose insurance she was on, he actually had to pay to overnight her check for insurance because she no longer was a full-time college student, even though she was still working with her physicians to be able to do school online. So, about her 4th round of chemo, she's now got fractured ribs, she has no hair, her eyebrows held on, I was told, and her eyelashes. She's down to 80 some odd pounds. And she goes in and they ask her how she's feeling. And she tells the head oncologist, the same one the mother threw the stapler at, and his fellow, that she's having chest pains. And the doctor says, "You're fine. fine. And the fellow says, she doesn't complain. She doesn't cry. She's just not the type of kid that's going to complain unless something's wrong. He's like, you know what? I'm going to send her for a MUGA scan. So he sends her down for a MUGA scan, and that test reveals that her infraction ratio dropped 33%. Typical cutoff for chemotherapy back then was 13 to 14%. So they canceled chemotherapy that day. And it hit her parents, but she was celebrating. She was like, yes, no more. My hair's gonna grow back. It didn't sink in, right? She was young. It didn't even sink in. Hey, your chance of survival probably just got a lot less. So she goes home, and the doctors call that night, and they say, hey, listen, we're gonna make a really aggressive choice. We're gonna do her surgery tomorrow. We're gonna go in, we're gonna try to get the tumor and dissect all of her lymph nodes because we know she's got a lot that are probably positive. It's like glandular cancer, it's growing fast. They said her chance of survival is 10%. And her parents said, is that the only thing we can do? And they said, yeah, it's the only thing. So that night they had to prep her for surgery. And her parents sat there and probably cried most of the night. And she didn't, because she knew, her new why was she was going to survive. Next day she gets in for surgery. She's ready. They go to wheel her down. There's some delays. They tell her only one family member can come back with you to the waiting room. We're going to get your IV in, but you got to pick your mom or your dad. And the young girl paused and she said, actually, I'm going to say goodbye here to them. If I can't have them both, I don't want to pick one over the other. Like, these were her parents. So she said goodbye and she went in. Her parents were told her surgery would be about 5 to 6 hours. 8 hours goes by with no updates. Nobody's told the family anything. Parents are convinced she has passed. And all of a sudden, this young boy comes running out, probably close to her age, and he said, hey, is the Kopp family out here? And the mother and the father stand up and they said, that's us. And he said, listen, just want to let you know, your daughter's still alive. They've lost her twice. She's had a bunch of blood transfusions. And he's like, and she's wide open on the table. I've seen some organs out, but they've got books in there right now. I don't know what's going on, but she's still with us. Don't give up on her. At almost exactly 10 hours, they wheeled her out of surgery. She was yellow, she was swollen. They had intubated her, and they told her family to go home. And they said, it's gonna be touch and go. You guys need some rest. We're gonna see if she wakes up tomorrow. Now this is the funny part. The girl, even though she couldn't open her eyes, she said she heard her parents. She said she heard the whole conversation. And all she could hear was her mother saying, why is she so yellow? Why does she look horrible? And they're like, she's traumatic, filled with lots of fluid. This is what happens during major surgeries. But we promise you, she's not gonna wake up tonight. 3 hours later, that girl woke up. She started pulling out her own tubes. Not advisable. The next morning, her family shows up, and you hear the mother coming down the hall, and she's got her husband, and she's got the grandmother, and the girl's brother is still at Carnegie Mellon in Pennsylvania at the time. And you hear the mother saying to the grandmother, don't freak when you see her. She's yellow, she's swollen, she's intubated, this is gonna be horrible. I just wanna prepare you. And as they walked into that room, that young girl was sitting up, 468 internal stitches, 52 surgical clips later. She had put on makeup and her wig was on. She still didn't look the best, I'm sure. But she did it. What was her why there? Her why was to protect her family. Her surgery revealed she had 28 positive lymph nodes. She ended up going through rounds of internal and external beam radiation. She had a lot of touch and goes. But you know what? She survived. She survived. And her why changed after that. Her why went from just wanting to live and change things to wanting to make an impact in the world, to change the world. So she goes on and she ends up volunteering. She does stuff with Hole in the Wall and Paul Newman's camps, and she ends up in healthcare because she fell in love with so many people while she was there. but yet she survived. And she was the only one out of the original 8 who survived. So her why changes. She decides she's going to go into healthcare. She wants to change the world. She wants to make a difference. Fast forward to 2018. She's working in healthcare in an industry where she feels she's making a decent impact. And her father walks into a hospital with RSV. Now he's 69, still working full time, probably still paying off some of her medical bills. And we all know he was the type to never miss work. So we knew he wasn't feeling well. So he goes in and they tell him, you know, saturation's a little low. We're going to keep him overnight for observation. They keep him overnight. One thing leads to another, and he ends up coding and he's intubated. This young girl comes back, and now it's her time to be at the bedside. And now let's think about what her why would be, right? Her why, again, is changing, guys. Now it's not just saving the world, she's trying to save her dad. And so while she's there, she watches her dad become extremely fluid overloaded. And she begs each and every day, let's get a nephrology consult. I think he probably needs some sort of dialysis, whether it's CRRT, whether it's HT. And the hospital setting he's in, she doesn't have any relationships there. She has done everything she could by flying around the hospital, trying to find nephrology on her own. And this is where it gets interesting. She calls Baxter because, see, she has a relationship with Baxter because the health field she's in, she actually works with them to roll out CRT programs. So she calls her TDS and says, listen, do you have a contact in this hospital? My dad's not doing good. He's gained a lot of fluid. Nobody's listening to me. I need to talk to the nephrologist. Do you know within 10 minutes that nephrologist called her? 10 minutes, guys. This poor kid spent 17 days running around these hospitals. And in 10 minutes, because of the relationship the person at Baxter had, she ended up getting a phone call back. The nephrologist heads immediately to go see her dad. And he says, you know, he's gained 48 pounds of fluid. We didn't even know he was here. We're going to put a line in tonight and we're going to do dialysis. And the girl feels as though she has won the world, right? Her whole entire why that day was to make an impact and to let somebody know her dad was there. And she used her relationship with Baxter, and Baxter's relationships, guys, amazing, right? To have that type of relationship with your physician where you're a rep, you've called and you're like, I have a friend who needs help. And they actually listen and call that girl back. Now, I'd like to tell you the story ended happy. Unfortunately, the father coded that night and he passed away. His death was ruled as an AKI. He had gained over 48 pounds of fluid. And in the end, she wasn't able to save him. And then she started to think to herself, what if I had called Baxter sooner? What if I worked for Baxter? Look at the relationship these guys have made. Look at the impact. Look at the difference. So now the cliffhanger, right? That story's me. I am here today because of the relationships that I made with my Baxter team and that I saw Baxter making within the healthcare industry, right? Think about that. Think about what we have the ability to do each and every day. Every day, guys, we're making a difference. We are all here still for a reason. And while she might not have been able to save her dad, she's touching patients every day, right? Everything I do, every patient that I know that I am impacting, think about that difference. I know that I'm making a difference. I am working for the most amazing healthcare company in the world that has the best technology, and that in the end, guys, is gonna save lives. So that's my why. That's my story. And I hope that it's gonna help you guys find your why, right? Because guys, it's 2023. This is our year. We're gonna show them. We've been through a lot, COVID, everything else, but guess what, guys? We pivot, we change. We're not gonna give up because we have a lot of patients still to save. and a lot of relationships to make. So guys, think about your why, because that why is what's going to help drive you to make a difference. I want to thank you guys for listening and listening to my story. I came here because of the people. I am still here because of the people. So guys, give yourselves a round of applause and think about your why. If you're super excited about it, stand up, shout it out. Tell the person next to you. Maybe not tattoo it, because we've all learned whys can change. But know it's yours. Thanks, guys. Good luck in 2023. We're going to kick some butt.